Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today I'm really excited to welcome Igor Vainshtein to the show. Igor is the founder of 24/7 Golf, which sells golf simulators for personal and commercial use. And today I'm going to ask Igor a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks, Igor. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I was just reading a little bit about you on the internet, and I saw a story where I believe, as a kid, you sold water in Ukraine, and then your parents were chastised or something. So it
That's
seems like you've always been an entrepreneur. Can you share a little bit about, your background and what are some of the things you've been doing before starting this business?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you picked up that correctly. I was born in a little place called Moldova, which is next to Ukraine and part of the former USSR. So I grew up, in a communist country, but I was wired a little bit differently, and I had this little side hustle, back when I was like 6 or 7 at a school camp over in Ukraine on the Black Sea, and sold water, made really good money. My parents got called into the communist headquarters when I got back, and were told that they're raising a little bourgeoisie pig. And they were very proud of me. So they're like, "We got to get out of here."
So in in
Which
in, in communist regime, entrepreneurship was seen as something to despise,
well,
I suppose.
it was evil and capitalist, and yeah, it was pretty bad. Until the wall came down, and then they realized everything. But it was, yeah, there was a lot of brainwashing back then. And so my parents moved from former USSR to Australia back in '91. So we landed in Australia on May 10th, 1991. I was almost 11 years old. Spoke no English at all,
Hmm.
and we arrived in Australia with $200, 4 suitcases, and off we went. Starting to build a new life. So that's kind of where it started. But I've always had sort of this I don't know, business entrepreneurial kind of itch, and I started, even back from USSR, but in Australia, I started building websites. Actually, no, I started working like in IT, running cables and networking, like when I was 14, and then I worked at McDonald's for 3 months. But then by about 16, I saw the birth of the internet,
Hmm.
and I started, about 16 or 17, I think it was 16. I started building websites for companies. Before anyone knew what a website was really.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where I first started, my own business. And I finished school at 17. I went to college to do an info systems degree, so like an IT degree,
Hmm.
and I worked full time. But then I kind of also started a little business. I was again just consulting, programming. I was a programmer, developer. But I actually worked, talking about e-commerce. I worked in the very first e-commerce startup in Australia back in
Hmm.
'98.
Okay.
So I was involved in e-commerce very early, and wish I stuck with it, but I kind of digressed for a number of years.
So is 24/7 Golf, do you consider, is this an e-commerce business or is this
It is,
okay?
absolutely it is. Like when I first started, it wasn't. It was an actual venue where you go in and you play virtual golf. But I had a couple of venues, and one of them went out of business. It didn't do well,
Mhm.
and I had all this equipment, and I had to sell it. So I put it on, I think, Facebook Marketplace, and I sold it in like a week. And,
Hmm.
and I thought to myself, this is easy.
Hmm.
Well, so I bought a few more, sold
Hmm.
those, and now we're a full e-commerce business. We have multiple warehouses. 24/7 itself started in Melbourne, Australia, so I've got a warehouse there. I've got a team there, and I've got a warehouse here in Dallas, Texas, which is where I moved a year ago. So even though I haven't got quite the Texan accent just yet, and I also have a JV partner with a warehouse in Luxembourg and Belgium. So I have a sort of a brand representation in Europe. So We're actually global.
Cool. Can you share a little bit about your product? Like what is this, and who actually uses this kind of simulator rather than, you know, going out and playing? Like who's like
Yeah,
what problem is it solving?
sure. Good question. So, golf simulators have been around for 15, 20 years, but the price point was 100,000, then it was like 70,000, 50,000. What I do, I manufacture enclosures, so that kind of the if you think like a tent that you hit into, and the
Mm,
mats and everything, and I resell technology products like the actual device that tracks the ball,
mm,
projectors, computers, etc., and software. And the problem I solve is I make it affordable for everyone. So my vision with the business was really to create, democratize it to be affordable to a huge, well, just about anyone, really. Anyone who can afford a set of good golf clubs, or can afford to play golf, should be able to afford a simulator. And so my price point, is extremely affordable without compromising the quality. And so, the packages I sell are, between, $3,500 through to maybe $8,500, not, 15 to 50 or 70 that you see in a lot of other companies. And so, my customers are, what I call everyday people that love their golf. And so they put it into their garage or a spare room or even outdoors or in their office, in a warehouse, etc. And that's really, my customer. And the problem, golf simulation is a really interesting, I think, I like that question of what problem are you solving? It's always the first question I ask when people are sort of pitching ideas to me or concepts. It's like, what real problem, what real world problem are you solving? And golf simulation solves the problem of time. People love golf. Like people who
mm,
play golf, they get obsessed with golf. I'm one of those people. I'm
mm,
obsessed with golf. Um, but golf takes a long time to play,
mm.
and more so, it takes a long time to practice.
Okay.
To get better. It's surprisingly a very difficult sport to master. Um, and so, golf simulators in your house solves the problem of time. So when I train my team in how they talk to customers, really the main question is, well, how much time could you get back? Because that's really what you're selling. The product is golf simulation, but the solution is time.
Mm.
And so I quite like that approach, and I think it's quite viable.
So how exactly does it work? So you hit a ball and you're seeing, I'm on your website actually, and I'm looking at one of the products.
Yeah,
You're seeing like the image of the golf course, and then
yeah,
does the image or the field move along with how fast you
yeah.
have hit the ball, and now you're like looking at a different scenario?
Yeah, so you hit a real ball, with the real golf clubs, and it picks up, the distance and the spin and the launch angles and etc. And basically the tracking device extrapolates the data and sort of simulates what a shot would have looked like if you were outdoors, and then you can play virtual courses or you can be on a virtual driving range. And so yeah, the screen shows you the ball flying, and then you hit the next shot, and then you play full 18 holes. Kind of, I mean, you have you seen those racing simulators, car racing or flight simulators? It's
Hmm.
kind of the same thing, except in this scenario, you're actually whacking a golf ball at pretty high speeds into a screen. Um, so yeah, that's what makes it different.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like a very interesting concept. As you were describing it, I'm thinking, what are some of the new technologies that are coming and being used in like video gaming, like this virtual reality headset
Yeah.
and things like this. I mean, given that you're an avid golfer, like, are there any of these new technologies kind of using a similar idea, but actually bringing the form factor even further smaller, like in a glass kind of a thing?
Yeah, so look, there are, but the problem with a lot of these devices is that they're quite chunky. I've got, here's my Quest controller. I've got a VR headset. I've got, I think, two or three augmented reality glasses. I've got a lot of different devices, and the problem with all of them at the moment is that they're just too chunky. They're too
Hmm.
cumbersome. But it is progressing. And so one of my other companies, so 24/7 Golf kind of is the e-commerce part, but I actually launched an app quite recently called Golf Track, which is, you can see my little logo here. And that does the set that tracks the ball just using the cameras on the back of your phone.
Hmm.
And so, the technology is improving where you can progress to kind of the next level. You don't need an expensive device where you can just use your phone, which is already in your pocket, and then you connect that to, software where you can play virtual, it's golf, there's other sports, and who knows kind of where it's going. Hopefully in the end, it'll end up like the holodeck on Star Trek. If you've ever watched Star Trek, it's, it's like the ultimate, or, Ready Player One, if you watch that movie, like that's the ultimate dream. But I think we're still a fair way away from that.
Okay. So was this idea, I mean, it seems like you have, you're creating some things yourself, you're adding the technology from other companies. So it almost seems like you're doing a little bit of a product development kind of a thing yourself. Are there other businesses who are doing similar things? I'm sure there's a big market, there's
Yeah,
other players also.
absolutely. Yeah. So I have competitors, and there's a couple of competitors that manufacture themselves. There's two that manufacture here in the US. There's some that resell others. So the enclosure itself, like what you hit into, mine's quite unique. I actually designed it myself. I have a patent on it, and it's got some unique features. But ultimately, it's really a commodity product. It's just it just fits a particular niche. It's sort of like if you think of Peloton and the bicycle, right? That you have at home. It's in the same. There's multiple models. It's really kind of same, but a little bit different. And then I kind of put it together to create a solution so that you can play golf at home, using whatever solution. And then on top of that, and a lot of this, funnily enough, kind of came about by accident. Like the e-commerce story I told you before, the app that I developed, it was a 6-year journey that also started as a bit of an accident, as a bit of a thought experiment. But ultimately, in my view, to truly scale a business, to create very significant impact in the market, and that's what I want to do. I think you need to develop your own intellectual property, your own product, and really try to lead the innovation of where all of this is going. And that's what I've tried to do, is really innovate, and again with the purpose of democratizing this fun activity so that it's literally already in your pocket.
So you mentioned that your business is in 3 locations, Australia, now in US and Luxembourg. What motivated you to come to the US? Was that more of, a bigger market? You thought this is a bigger market to pursue?
Look, I've wanted to move to the US for a long time. I think America does certain things really well, and that is create an environment for entrepreneurs to really thrive and grow. And the way that business is seen here, I think is just really fabulous. Australia, we had a good stable business, and it was growing really well, but it's still a small market. There's like 1 million golfers roughly in Australia. In the US, there are 35 million golfers. So the market size is just so much bigger. And you see, I think as an entrepreneur, if you really want to test yourself as an entrepreneur, to really, kind of like athletes, test themselves on the world stage or at the Olympics, like you got to play at the right stage. There's no point sort of being the best in your local county or something, right? You want to test yourself, in the biggest market in the world, and that's why I wanted to move here, and that is why I moved here, and it's been an amazing journey, and I'm love being here in Texas as well. I kind of like Texas, so very happy here in Dallas.
Cool. So do you feel like your business kind of, as you were saying, it was an accident, or it came about organically, which is, I guess you really have to be lucky to to stumble into a good idea. A lot of people try to validate, come up with a new idea and validate and things like that, but seem to work out well for you. Did you, like, when you were starting out, was it really just, okay, I sold a few of these, let me reinvest the money, get some more, and just do like that, so you didn't really need to invest your own money or like a huge investment to build this business?
Mm. Look, it's an interesting. So there's a great golfer, and I can't remember who exactly said it, so I don't want to say the wrong name in the quote, but he said, I think it's Sam Snead, but I'm not sure. He said, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Mm,
In terms of his golf game, right? The more I practice, the luckier I get. I definitely wouldn't see my journey as kind of lucky. It's been very, very difficult. It's had lots of challenges, and I think we're all given lots of opportunities on a daily basis. The question is, can you see them and can you take them? And even when things don't go right, can you get back? If you get knocked down, can you get back up and do it again? And this came out from business that kind of failed, that I lost a lot of money on, that I had to kind of try to recover something out of it, not
mm,
just kind of put it all in the trash. And that resulted in an idea, and then I had to kind of invest money that I didn't have because I just lost a lot of money
mm,
to go buy some more stock, some more inventory, and sell that, and try to repeat that multiple times until you're at a point. And then I grew, and then I all of a sudden said, well, to truly kind of deliver what I want, I need to manufacture this. And so then I had to kind of build a manufacturer. So again, you just like you've had a bit of success, and you just tip it all back into the business, and it could go up in flames, or it
mm,
could become a success, or sometimes it kind of goes up in flames as it's succeeding. It's just complete chaos. And
mm.
I think anyone who's running a business and they say it's easy or lucky, I think are probably lying.
Definitely. Um, what is how do you find customers, or how do you or are the customers, because I'm assuming that people who play golf are really passionate about the game, and
Mm.
so they're looking for how to improve my game or something like that, and they will
Yeah.
do a search and come across your business if you have done good SEO and stuff like that. Can you share a little bit about your marketing? How do customers discover you, or do you do like more of an advertising kind of a thing to
Yeah,
bring?
sure. So, customers, obviously normal, SEO, SEM, can be pretty useful. But like, for example, here in the US, my competitors are much bigger than me because I'm a newcomer. And so I can't compete with their budgets. They're much bigger. They spend a lot more money. So we found our niche in, for example, Facebook advertising, Instagram, YouTube. We have a lot of influencers, people that record content, kind of like what you're doing, but with this interview, but they do it with golf simulation.
Mm,
And
mm,
so we give them our products, say, hey, please try it. Tell us what you think. If they love it, they do their own content. We do a deal where they promote it, and we have a really good sort of commercial arrangement, and it's all very transparent, and we do hope people love it, because that's what we love our product. We want other people to love it, but really you got to get it out there. If no one knows about it, you may have the best product on the planet, but if no one knows about it, that's going to be hard to sell.
mm.
And golfers are pretty obsessive, so they spend a lot of time on YouTube or Instagram. So those channels have been really good for us. And But yeah, more the social part is definitely a more successful strategy than sort of a traditional SEO SEM pathway. Yeah.
Do you now think about, because US has a bigger market, obviously, as you said, do you think about going into retail, or going into more special, having your products in more specialty shops, sports-based shops, or creating maybe your own storefront or something?
Yeah, look, I'm definitely not interested in a storefront. We do have wholesale partners. So in the US versus like Australia, where we're quite dominant, we have wholesale partners. So some big companies that buy in bulk from us, and they market it to their customers, and that's a really good strategy. Or it has been a really good strategy here in North America, because the scale is so large. We'd rather partner with companies that already have scale and can deliver to a large number of clients, and we just support that in a really positive partnership versus trying to compete with them or compete with the other existing players. I mean, if we're the new guys on the block, so we kind of have to prove ourselves. We have to work harder. Avis, do you know the car rental company Avis?
Yeah.
So Hertz was always the biggest, that the thing still is, and they used to have this campaign a number of years ago that said, we're number two, so we try harder.
Mhm.
And I think that really applies to us. Like, we have to try harder to make a name for ourselves in the market, and that's the strategy kind of we've chosen. I think it's been pretty good so far.
Any interesting marketing campaigns or advertising campaigns or social media thing that has worked really well for you, that
Look,
has given?
for us, yeah, the main thing for us is really video content. Like, it's a very emotional purchase. It's
Hmm.
not, you don't need a golf simulator.
Yeah.
You want one.
Hmm.
And so we have to appeal to that emotional, very graphic, visual,
Hmm.
kind of, it's a visual sale. It's not
Hmm.
it's not it's not logical and tangible.
Hmm.
And so we've gone down that path a little bit, and had some success with that. So that's probably the main thing, is we I wish we realized just how visual the sale is
Hmm.
earlier in our journey, but that's been an interesting kind of thing about this particular niche.
I mean, I would say, because this product is, I would say, still relatively at a high, not at a high price point, because
Yeah,
I'm sure the value,
it's still a big
but
ticket
still,
item. Yeah, it's
it
still a
is
big
it's
ticket.
a, it is a I would say, a luxury item. Not everybody is going to invest like
No.
$5,000 to $8,000 in buying this. Is this like, do you take, is it completely like hands off? Somebody finds your content, look at video, and they would make that impulse purchase, or they would make that
Yeah,
emotional purchase,
yeah, that
or is
happens.
it more of a, do you have salespeople, so people call, so then salespeople are doing their sales job to try to get
It,
people across the line or
mm,
so?
it's a good question. So we do have a lot of impulse buys because people come to us kind of ready to buy. So they've done research, they've spent a lot of time on YouTube, and hopefully they've seen our products on YouTube, on some people that they trust. I think the world's really changed into that whole peer trusting. So people try to find what would someone like me do, and they find that on YouTube or whatever, or Instagram. And so we have people that kind of do that. We also have salespeople, but they're not really traditional salespeople, because this product requires um, knowledge, deep knowledge of the product or the solution. And so one thing that set us apart, and I think when I started the company, I was so much into it, and I used to have indoor golf centers, so I just know a lot of stuff. And the way that I would sell initially and had success is by really knowing a lot of details, and people were quite impressed by how much I knew, and how I could explain things. And so when I hired a team to kind of take those inbound calls or inbound inquiries, I wanted to make sure that they had the same understanding. So for example, one of my guys here in the US, he lives in Arizona. He used to have one simulator that he sold it, bought another one. And so by the time he started with me, he was already a customer. He was already my exact type of customer. And so
Hmm.
he can really relate to the people that call in. But in a purchase price like this, you're right. It's cheap for golf simulators, but it's very expensive for e-commerce.
Yeah.
And the way to get around that is you need to have people that that are product experts. They need to be really good at what they do. You
Are
can't just
you?
do like a traditional phone-based call center salesperson. It wouldn't work for this price point.
Yeah. Um, does TikTok have the kind of customers that you want? I would assume maybe not. Or
So it's funny. We just recently started with a couple of TikTok influencers. I mean, I don't even use TikTok, but we've had some sales from it, and so
oh
so
wow.
yeah, it's I think because our price point's a lot more reasonable than others. Um, I think that's why TikTok's actually okay. But it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's the main channel. YouTube is really big for us, just
Okay.
YouTube and Facebook. So which has been an older market. Both of those platforms are an older market, and my market is definitely more 35 plus, not sort of under.
And your products are you only selling on your website, or do you also are you also available on Amazon or some of the other
So yeah,
marketplaces?
we have an Amazon presence. We have like some of those wholesale partners that I mentioned. And but yeah, a lot of direct to consumer as well. But in North America, we're definitely leaning more towards like partnerships and wholesale. And in Australia, we're definitely like 90% direct to consumer.
Okay. What does your team look like?
Um, so I've got obviously a couple of warehouses. So I've got, warehouse operations. I've got customer service, phone-based, email, live chat. I have some salespeople, like I mentioned earlier. And I have a country manager for Australia, and I have like an operational person here in the US that kind of runs all the ops. And I'm kind of the talking head that plays golf, talks to people, that kind of thing.
So you're the main marketer, or do you have like a marketing team that helps you?
No, I've got a
Or
marketing team, and I've got some really great like they're outsourced partners that manage AdWords, and I have someone who manages all the Facebook ads. Got someone else who does like all my automation in terms of chatbots and email automation, text automation, etc. So there's a team. There's over 20 people, sort of all up.
okay. You mentioned that you have your own warehouses. Have you ever, is it easier to manage your own warehouse versus like if you um, hire like a third party logistics company to
Yeah, it's a good
fulfill?
question. A lot of people ask me about that. So our products, the package is quite large and they're quite heavy. They're like, like the enclosure itself comes in two boxes. Each one weighs about, 40 pounds.
Okay.
Our sort of, um, 3.5 foot tall sort of box. So they're quite heavy, quite big. And so third party didn't really work for us, and because they're more built for small products. They're more
Mm,
for widgets and small products. Very large, heavy products is difficult for them. We also had some issues with boxes where because of the heavy weight, sometimes the boxes get crushed in shipping. So having our own warehouse allowed us to fix problems very quickly as they occurred. So, tape the boxes more, vigorously, or, change the box or create another box to put another, like all these little things that kind of added up. And so having our own warehouses gave us a lot of control.
mm,
I think if you have a more standardized product that is larger volume, small packaging, that maybe, 3PL may be a good option. But for us and a niche, and also like we, high price, low volume. So I think also to get really value out of 3PL, you need to have volume.
mm.
Otherwise, it
And
becomes uneconomical.
on your website, it says you have you offer free shipping.
Yeah.
Because the items are so heavy. I'm assuming you're building the shipping pricing and the product pricing itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we kind of average it out, and we even offer free shipping to Canada.
Well,
It kind of works out. I think people expect that these days, and we want, our kind of our value is that we want to give people a solution. We don't want them to worry about things that they don't need to worry about. We are good at shipping. Let us worry about the shipping. You just want your product.
yeah, cool. What is your future vision for your business? I mean, I know every business owner wants to continue growing the business. Is that I mean, you're passionate about golf. You have a great
Mm.
business you're building for golf. Like, do you continue like is this your life work, or um, where do you see yourself like 5, 10 years down the road?
Yes, good question as well. Look, the e-commerce part of the business is kind of a necessity. It's an accessory business. It's an enabler for a golf simulator to kind of happen. But really, where I see my future is in the app. And so we launched that only about 6 weeks ago. And it's been really great. We've had 1,500 downloads in a short period of time. Really feeling out the market. But ultimately, I'd love to have 1 million people using it. A million people having simulators in their house, and playing golf and maybe other sports in the future. But that's really where I see it is just this scale, and to be able to really bring it to people that otherwise couldn't afford it. And not that I'm being altruistic. It's not about that. It's
Mm.
really about accessibility. I think it's such a great thing. I have kids. My son, 7.5. He does golf lessons. He's got his own YouTube channel actually, with like golf simulator and games. My daughter will start golf, in a couple of months once she turns 4. So, I love it. I think everyone should play golf. And so I want to make that available to as many people as possible.
That's awesome. Um, I'm interested in a little bit about your app. Like, are you giving that out? Like, what is the business model behind that? Or is it paid app? Is it like free to download and then you're doing some sort of an upsell?
Yeah, so it's a
what is
it's
the
a
value
pretty
proposition of the app?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pretty standard freemium model. So it's free to download, free to use. You get your so when you take a shot, you get your last shot data um, on the screen, and you can obviously just use that if you want. But if you want to play like 150,000 golf courses, which is a software I integrate with, or another piece of software. So if you want to play courses or practice like on a virtual range, it's a $99 a year model, and so
Mm.
it's a subscription. And obviously, then if you do need an enclosure and a mat, I can sell you that from 24/7 Golf. So it's like an accessory. So that's what I mean. Like the 24/7 Golf part enables golf simulation, but ultimately you need something that tracks the ball. So that's the app model. And at the moment, it's still a lot of experimentation. I'm giving a lot of licenses out for free just to see how people use it. How they
Mm.
find it. How do they find the instructions? Is it hard? Is it easy? Could I improve it? So it's still very much a learning curve. But ultimately, the idea is to, annual subscription, but free to start. Because I think apps, there's a lot of apps out there. I think you got to be, you got to enable people to try it out. Like they
Mm.
need to get hooked.
Mm.
So that's the main purpose.
So it's almost like, I mean, you're getting into a different, like a software business, app business. How um, is it like your app development outsourced? Are you getting it from like European countries or something?
No, actually, my whole team is in house.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a team of about 9 developers, and yeah, it's only my designs in house, everything's in house, and yeah, I have staff in Kiev, that sometimes can't work because the electricity's been knocked out with the
Yeah.
war. I've got other staff I've got a team in India, in other parts of Eastern Europe, in Indonesia. So they're scattered around the world. The key is finding the key is just finding great people. And where and in the world we live in now, like it doesn't matter where you are, as
Yeah.
long as they're great people, they can make your company great. Um, and I'm an IT guy. I kind of didn't say this earlier, but I come from a tech background. I'm an IT guy. I was obviously a
Mm.
software developer. I was a consultant. I was a project manager, a CTO. So my background's tech, and I just fell in love with golf. But yeah, the app is a completely different business in many ways, but the e-commerce part kind of really supports it. It's a I think I started using a term that I was mentioned to me in an interview a couple of months ago, phygital,
Mm.
physical and digital. So it's now
Mm.
phygital. It's a combination of the two. You need both.
Mm.
Kind of like that whole metaverse concept, right? Which is,
Yeah.
yes, you got the digital, but you still have physical interaction with it. But in this case, it's a sport and it's fun and it's practicing something you love.
I mean, given that you're a tech person, have you explored metaverse at all? What are your
Look,
initial thoughts on that?
I was like so excited about Second Life back, I don't know what, 15 years ago when it came out, and I
Okay.
looked at the metaverse and I thought, it, Second Life version 2,
Okay.
what's different? I don't know. So short version is no, I'm not really into it. Um, I think we have a long way to go before we find a way to interact with it. It looks great in movies like Ready Player One, but in reality, it's not very it's just not very practical at the moment. But I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll get there one day. Technology is coming along.
Either Meta will get there, or Meta is kind of like the first try, and then some
Yeah,
other company will come and really
I
figure it
think
out.
there's going to be other companies. I think it's going to be something revolutionary. It'll be something kind of like that came out of nowhere, just like a
Yeah.
lot of other, like when Facebook came out of nowhere, kind of into, or yeah, I just think it'll happen in a way that we don't expect.
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
So in every entrepreneur's journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. Um, can you share maybe like, uh, I mean, I know you shared that your business went out of business and stuff, but can you think of like a big mistake or failure that really taught you a lesson, and what can other entrepreneurs learn from it?
I have made so many mistakes. We'd be here for hours going through them. I was nearly bankrupt 3 times. This is not my first business. I had a consulting company. I had a car rental company. I had lots of different companies, and like you're always going to make big mistakes. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes probably I didn't learn about cash flow.
Mm,
Really, I didn't really hammer it into my head until whatever number of years ago. But cash flow is king, and every entrepreneur needs to get into their head that cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. It's you can be asset rich, cash poor, your business will go under. And so it's the lifeblood of any business. So I wish I learned that younger. Besides that, all the other mistakes are pretty normal. Um, Pretty normal entrepreneur mistakes. What I'd say about those is that you're. I read a lot of business biographies. I
mm,
read in fact, like literally every business biography I can get my hands on.
mm,
And it's a much cheaper way to learn from other mistakes to try to
mm.
not make the same. And so my advice would be read as much as you can about other people's mistakes so that you can try to avoid them yourself because you'll make plenty yourself.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
definitely, definitely. Are you? I mean, what I want to say is like the new way of doing business. Like all the industries are getting disrupted so
Yep.
heavily. Even with like new technologies like crypto and blockchain and things like that. Recent news. It almost seems like a lot of the things in the new world, there isn't really that book out there. So
No,
some of
there
some of
isn't.
it is like you have to try it out, and see if it works or not.
But the principles are the same. You asked me the question before, what problem are you solving? So I think what's happening a lot in the Web3 world is people going, hey, this is a great idea. We should build this. Okay, what problem can we find to solve with this idea? And it
Mm,
really should be the other way around. And every successful business that has been built has looked at a problem and solved the problem, not created the product and then try to find a problem.
yeah,
And I think that's a mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs. That's what I've seen. A lot of entrepreneurs make. They get very hooked on the idea. They get hooked on some really sexy new tech, very innovative, but they can't. They don't know what it actually does. I mean, crypto is a perfect example. Blockchain, etc. I'm sure there are amazing uses for it. I personally like NFTs. I don't get it. I
yeah,
just don't understand it. And I'm a tech
yeah.
guy, and I really just do not understand it. Um, and people try to explain it to me, so I ask, like, so what problem are you actually solving? And very
Mm,
few people can actually articulate that, and that's just you know that's the problem with it. It doesn't matter if it's new technology, and you still have to explain what problem you're solving.
very true, very true. Uh, Now I'm going to move on to our rapid fire segment, and in this
Okay.
segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a few words or a sentence or so. One book, I mean, you said you read a lot of books. One book recommendation for entrepreneurs, and why?
So my two favorite books in the most recent past, Shoe Dog, the guy that started Nike. What an
Hmm.
amazing book! Just one of the very few people that have actually honestly expressed the entrepreneurial journey, the downs as well as the ups, because a lot of these books, they don't tell you about the downs. They tell you how
Mhm.
they went from strength to strength to strength. That's great. It never happened that way. And I really love the Elon Musk biography. Those two are probably my favorite. But Shoe Dog probably number one. Absolutely.
Are you an Elon Musk fan?
I'm a massive Elon Musk fan,
Okay.
and I love what he does. I love I wish one day I could change the world the way he changes the world. So
Yeah.
one could dream.
And an innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
It's not so much a product. I think it's a concept. So it's the AI, so the chatbot and the synthetic humans. So like
Mm.
is it Synthesia.ai or
Okay.
that company that creates an avatar that talks and can do videos. I mean, that stuff is just breathtaking how realistic it is. And I think that's going to have a huge impact on the e-commerce world. I think it's going to have huge impact on the entire retail, even physical. Like I see a world where we have avatars that are actually AI. They're not real humans, but they look like and they talk like real humans. Taking orders even at fast food restaurants or etc. So I think it's going to be well beyond just e-commerce. But to me, that sort of artificial chats, so chatbots, voice bots, and just generated humans, not
Mm.
real. I think that's going to be very cool and exciting.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
Well, look, I mean, Klaviyo, ManyChat, again, going back, like we used a lot of that for automation. I think if you are trying to scale a business, I think you got to have automation and scaling built into it from the ground up. And so those are some great tools.
A startup or a business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think currently doing great things?
Oh, I mean, there are so many. Um, like I said, Synthesia, like that business really is quite amazing for me. And yeah, it's just anything to do with chatbot, voice bot is what gets me excited in this space.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you,
I
besides
don't know if I
Elon
call
Musk?
Elon Musk a peer,
No.
but he definitely inspires me.
Okay. And
um,
anyone else?
um, I think there's a lot, in terms of not so much in business, but in terms of what they've achieved. Lex Friedman. Um,
Yeah.
he started. I remember watching his podcast when he was, playing guitar while driving an autonomous vehicle. And I think how he approached the whole concept is really brilliant. So he's very inspirational to me. And but actually, no, I will say so. It's in different type of tech, but another Aussie who's moved to the US many years ago, Professor David Sinclair, I think is one of the most amazing human beings in the world, and he's a huge inspiration. And
He's working on the aging problem, right?
On anti-aging, that's right. And
Anti-aging. Yeah.
funny story is his dad was my dad's boss for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years back in Australia. So I actually know David.
Oh,
We crossed paths, but I think I was like I was a teenager back then. So he probably won't remember that was like 25 plus years ago. But I'd love to. He's definitely one of the people I'd love to hang out with and talk to.
are you using any of his anti-aging
I,
methodologies,
I,
or?
I, I am using some of his recommendations. I'm actually 85 years old. I don't know if you can tell. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think. But on a serious note, I think if you think about your business and your future and your family and your um, kind of the longevity of your business, and if you think if you're going to be around for a long time, how would that change your viewpoint around patience, around growth, making better decisions? I think it changes. I think it changes your perspective quite interestingly in business itself. So that's we'll see.
Final question. Best business advice that you ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I would tattoo on the forehead of every entrepreneur, cash flow is king.
Okay.
it's just, I cannot stress it well enough, because that is what has cost me more money, more stress, more gray hairs, than anything else. Any other lesson in business is just, you gotta have cash flow. You gotta know your cash flow, and I'm still learning. Like, I'm still not, like, it's not my superpower, but I wish I wish I had much better grasp of it early in my life and my entrepreneurial career, and I'm still, it's the thing I'm working the hardest on right now, in my business, is to be really good at that.
Awesome. Well, on that note, Igor, really appreciate. It was great talking to you. Thank you again for sharing your time. If anyone watching the interview wants to purchase your products, what is the best way to find
So
your
just go
business?
to www.247.golf, and make sure, we've got a great Black Friday special at the moment, massive discount. So, can buy there. And if they want to find out about the app, it's Golf Track, GOLFTRAK.app. And they can find a little bit more information there. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Igor. Really appreciate you coming on, sharing your time, sharing your story, and yeah, thank you, and all the best to you.
Cheers. Thanks again.
Thank you.